Hey Neppers, it's me, Wild Neptune, and in this epic 7 video, the 10 heroes that are not limited you should maybe consider pulling on. Before that though, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, catch me at twitch.tv/WildNeptune. Okay, so, after Samurai Seria is out, it's probably going to be a little while before we get another round of limited units, and you can stack up bookmarks and perhaps maybe pull on, well, an older hero. But which one of these previously released heroes is worth your time and resources? Well, this video is for you. Now, to preface this is going to be targeted more at players that don't really have a lot of heroes. So, newer-ish players that are just kind of looking to get into something like World Arena. It is going to be skewed mostly towards PvP, World Arena that is. However, some heroes are just so good at PvE that we can't ignore them. Anyway, let's get going to the list. Now at number 10, we have Valencia, who has recently seen a little bit of uptick in usage in World Arena. This is mostly because of things like REM and somewhat SSB coming back a little bit too. Also has a little bit of power against something like Maid Chloe due to her S3 strip. So what does Valencia do? Well, S3 is an AoE of strips buffs off the enemy and gives your team a defense buff. Her S1 is a single target attack with a chance of defense break. Her S2 is a passive. It Mind's Eye, so at 50% chance at max molas, every time she's hit, she procs Mind's Eye, and Mind's Eye will give her 30% effectiveness and ER bonus, plus it makes her S1 do a bonus attack afterwards, which is, the damage does add up quite a bit. Valencia right now is a kind of a niche counter pick, which is why she is pretty low in this top 10. And again, these are only heroes that you might want to pull on. And until we get to maybe like the top 5, you really have to think pretty hard if you think it's worth it. But Valencia has some decent tech option right now.
Do you know who I am?
Number 9 on the list would be Bazaar. Now, Bazaar has seen some better days. There is some argument that he might become better as the meta might shift more towards even more so into the double Soul Weaver type gameplay. But Bazaar, he has the Soul Burn on his S3. We talked about it before, but unbuffable, strips buffs, ignore ER on the Soul Burn, very powerful. His S2 with the blind and attack down debuffs, another AoE S1 will occasionally transfer a debuff. You know, he never does it for me, but I've seen it happen. Bazaar's problem is that, like Valencia, he's a counter pick. He's a stronger counter pick than Valencia is when he's good, but outside of that, those times where he's a counter, he's worse. So when you pick him, you have to make sure that the rest of your team, you have enough damage and enough, support stuff going on where you can actually kill the enemy after you land the debuffs. And since the meta is still relatively aggressive, Bazaar kind of falls in that weird spot where, unless he's specifically fighting against something that you need him for, he doesn't quite do enough. But when you do find those situations that he's really good in, then he can be a real problem, sometimes a must ban for the enemy team.
I'll teach you dignity.
In the 8th spot, we have Queen Forehead, Charlotte. So, Charlotte's an interesting hero. Her gear requirements are pretty, forgiving. If you're a newer player just getting into the game, getting into RTA, you can run her on speed set. You don't need any crit because, well, all of her attacks, if they land, they crit. So her S3 is right here. It's her spin to win attack. If it connects, it will always crit. So there we go. And her S1 is an AoE if she's buffed. So right now she'll never be buffed here because these will never hit us. But if she is buffed as an AoE, well, her S1 always hits crits too. And how does she get buffs? Well, when she's attacked, she gets buffs. Attack and defense buff. It greatly increases her survivability. So, newer players can run on speed set and just, zoom and do some more damage. More veteran players will want her on lifesteal to get that sustain in. She has become a pretty good pick in World Arena and a pretty good choice for arena defense right now also in normal arena. So, not a every time pick type unit, but one of the premier fire damage dealers right now.
An eternal night will reign.
In the 7th spot, we have Water Kisei. So, Kisei was a little bit higher on the list before, but some recent developments have kind of knocked her down a little bit. Some of it is things like Green Violet, who we might see a little bit later as a spoiler. But what did she do? Well, her S3, it is a strong single target nuke. It will strip buffs and reset skill cooldowns. Her S2, if she's stealth, is an AoE which penetrates defense. And her S1 will do extra damage to an enemy that is buffed. And the Soul Burn will increase the damage. And it increases the damage by quite a bit. So there are two ways to really build her. One of them is the super fast way with, say, Basket, like 270, 280. Those are just looking, maybe get a lucky basket, but just really get a skill reset on something like Carrot so she can't open up with an S3. The other ones are maybe like the 240 speed ones, and those are the ones that are looking to potentially one-shot a unit. Both builds are viable. Her gear requirement is on the higher end of the top 10 on this list, which is another reason why she's not ranked higher. Just the difficulty to get her going for the average player. So, again, really good against Carrot, but if she doesn't get a 1-for-1, she's pretty much a lackluster hero. So you have to make sure you pick her in a position where you'll come out ahead with the exchange. Because if the enemy team has like an SSB or a REM, and you hit the Carrot, right? But then you say you S2 and you get countered to death, well, you still probably come out behind in those cases. So Glass Cannon, right? Really a pure fire unit type counter unit, but fire units are very strong right now.
Step back.
Number 6 would be Rwana. So Rwana is one of the heroes on this list that is also pretty good for PvE. But let's talk about the PvP first. What did she do? Well, her S3, it is a heal plus a revive buff for 2 turns. Her S2, which is her bread and butter. Every time you get counter-attacked, well, you get a heal and a CR boost, right? Or dual attacked against, right? Based on the number of heroes on your team that are hit. Her S1 gets a barrier for 2 turns. She's very annoying to fight on arena defense. She's been a mainstay there, basically. Basically kills a lot of SSB teams that try to fight you. She's also one of the main reasons why SSB is not super common anymore in World Arena, just because Rwana is a potential check. Now, Rwana is not the best option against Rem, because Rem does have Unhealable on her S2, so not always the best choice against her, but just the ability to plug her in against a potential SSB, who will be much more common in lower tiers of play. So if you're just trying to get the Masters, something like Rwana might do a lot of work for you. But that's just PvP. In PvE, she is a very strong Soul Weaver for Hell Raid. She's also really strong, probably best in slot for the Water Expedition, simply for the fact that she's grass, and the Water Boss, well, she counterattacks you, so you get a little bit of a heal, and sometimes you get a bit of a CR boost, right? Depending on your the units you have. At number 5, we have Violet. So Violet is one of the few heroes here, actually. Yeah, one of like the 2 heroes here, the other one being Kisei, that I don't personally have built, but just from seeing him in action and working, he is pretty strong right now. One of the most common units on Arena Defense. Very annoying to fight overall. He's personally right now my ban target in World Arena. Again, because I don't really have him built. He's the premier single target grass damage dealer. Obviously, the premier one will be Landy, but she's limited, so she doesn't count for the list. Violet, well, his S3, when it's available, he'll have a 35% evasion buff. His S2 is his Apple ability, where he dispels 2 debuffs and gets his Perception buff, which gives him a 15% crit chance and crit damage boost, which does mean you can build him with 85% crit chance. His S1 will attack down, potentially, on it. He does counterattack every time he is dodges an attack, which means that, you know, you might get a little bit of a bonus. Not only that, but he gets a small CR boost every time he uses the S1. So he counterattacks, he gets a small CR boost. Also, when he's at full focus, his S3 will reset. So you see right there, we just used it, but now, you know, but it comes back after the full focus, which is really nice. His buff did a lot for him. It made him better against, well, like basically immune to something like ADS, who used to be able to just... Well, even ADS didn't really work, because his Apple wasn't a passive anyway, right? But, it made it so that his dodge would always, be active on the first turn, which means that now you can run him a lot tankier, a lot slower. Most of the builds now I see are running in between, like, say, 150, 160-ish, with a bunch of bulk, good damage. He does need lifesteal for his set, so his gear requirements are a little bit on the higher side, but just his pure potential for winning out a match for you cannot be denied.
Are you doubting me?
Number 4 is Elena. So, I started to say Violet, but really with Elena now, these are heroes that you should really consider pulling on if you don't have them. Elena is especially strong right now. Her S3 gives a AoE invincibility plus an ER bonus, which is 50%. This means that if you use this, and let's say they have like a stripper, well, they have to, you know, maybe pass this ER check, right? S2 will, take less damage from AoEs. On top of that, every 2 turns you get AoE'd, you will do a big heal, and you get a small CR boost by 20%. This mixed with maybe something like Tome will give her a huge 50% boost. This means that you can still run her on counter and have her maybe slot in for anti-cleave. Her S1 will also cleanse a debuff from 2 allies. The Soul Burn will cleanse all debuffs from all allies, which is a underrated Soul Burn, in my opinion. Very strong in sustained teams that she's in. She's somewhat difficult to draft I feel like she's not a plug and play, but the scenarios where she's just really good in, and a must ban is maybe even the highest out of every unit on this list, except for one other one, which we will get to very shortly. Oh, also Elena is also now, again, like a lot of the units here, a very strong unit on arena defense. So, not to be overlooked. Number 3 is Politis. So, as of this video going up, Politis will be in Mystic rotation for about a week or so, as of the rollover for Wednesday or Thursday, depending on where you are, right? And if you don't really care about resetting your Mystic Pity, or not saving for something like, say, the new Angelica coming out for the 4-star, if you don't have Politis and you're serious about doing World Arena, you should probably try to go for her. She is one of the most important counter heroes right now in the meta, with May, Chloe, Amelia, and all of those just like everywhere right now. She has become a real thorn in the side against those buff type compositions. Also, again, really strong on arena defense. Why is she so good against those teams though? Well, her passive, what it does is that not only does it reduce all CR the enemy gains by 50%, it also automatically activates when the enemy uses a non-attack skill. So make Chloe S3, you know, any of Amelia's attacks, DN's, stuff, whatever, right? And then after that, she can use her S3 because she gets a CR boost, and she will activate Unbuffable and Blind. So she's also a very strong anti-cleave. So strong against anti-cleave is that cleave teams actually pick her just so that they don't have to ban her out, right? Even though she's not the best in the cleave team, she's so strong against them that they really have no choice in the matter most of the time. Her S1 also has a chance to stun. Her passive will activate every 2 turns. So what you can do is you can carry Book, and then on your first turn, you Soul Burn, right? And then you can S3 after that. So the next time it's up, you already have the S2 again. So maybe they have 2 abilities that can non-attack skills they might want to use. They have to wait, you know, again, or maybe take another S2. So Politis is probably the best counterpick hero in the game, I say right now, for PvP. Highly recommend for anybody who is serious for pushing rank in RTA. Number 2 is Crowl. So Crowl remains to be probably the most important knight in the game right now. A lot of this does have to do with the fact that Carrot is still very strong, even though her strength is maybe not as crazy right now as I feel people have projected her to be. There are other things you kind of need to worry about a little bit. Crow's strong for a number of reasons. One is that he's not dark type, so things like LQC aren't going to immediately like wreck your team. His defense buff, obviously on his S2, is very strong right now for some sustain. But the really big thing is that the horse on the S3, where he's the only knight in the game that can act as both a defensive bulwark and an offensive threat later into a match. So, really strong against stuff like, not only Carrot, but even things like Landy. Not Landy, sorry, Rem. Landy's obviously very good against Crowl, but Rem, a lot of the times, what happens is that she might get a counterattack off, but then the Crowl just horses her, and she kind of dies against Crowls before she really does a lot of stuff. Um, Crowl is as close to a must-have in the night slot for PvP as I think there has ever been right now. In previous metas, I feel like you could have gotten away with not having him, but right now he just seems too important to pass up on if he appears again. Now then, before we get to our number one, let's go over some honorable mentions. Just a few of them, like Ravi here, who is still relatively strong, but with things like Carrot and Charlotte and especially more water element buffers and stuff like that are coming out, not always as easy to use as it used to be. Charles, obviously, if you want something for the one-shot, seeing some play a little bit due to, again, the constant buffers that are around, but a little too RNG to use still for serious World Arena use, in my opinion. Sigrid, I do kind of assume you picked her for selectives, but if you didn't and you need a good single target Wyvern unit, Sigrid is a powerful option for you. Pavel. Pavel is probably stronger than almost every unit on this list. Like, maybe minus, like, Crow. The reason Pavel is not on the list is because his gear requirement is so high that most players who are going to use this list for education and just deciding what they want to pull on won't even be able to gear Pavel up, right? So if you can run like 300 speed with good damage stats for your Pavel, go ahead and get him, right? You're one of the lucky few, but he does probably have the highest gear requirement out of any hero in the game right now. Ludica, decent all-around Swiss Army knife PvE unit. Vivian, good for one-shots, attack buffing, stuff like that. Obviously need some cleansers like Ray or Destina. Those are good too. Celine, like I said, there are some non-attack abilities where Celine could be useful against. In tests, though, she's rather lackluster because she can be counterpicked against a lot easier than Politis can be. But enough with that. Let's go on to the number one. And I don't think it's anybody's surprise, but the number one unit you should pull on, if you don't have them, is Tamarin. Tamarin is a must pull, in my opinion. Even if you are late into the game, I kind of feel you kind of still want her. She's just best in slot for so many pieces of content. And this is a list that was heavily skewed towards PvP heroes. And Tamarin, she's pretty much dead in PvP. She's here purely for how strong she is in PvE. Why is this? Well, if you're a new player, she's best in slot for just about every piece of content you want to do. So if you need a healer for adventure mode just to survive a little bit, you'll take her because she's the best in slot there. She's the best in slot healer for your raid teams for most of Abyss. And remember, even like veteran players, a lot of them need to use Tamarin in Abyss for like the harder floors until they get maybe cheesed or solved like a few months down the road, right? Or when like the gear or when our gear levels get high enough where we can kind of brute force some of them, right? But Tamarin, very strong for basically all of Abyss. Best in slot for Fire Expo, for Dark Expo, for Grass Expo. Useful for slower A13. Okay for Banshee, even though she's a fire unit because she has that cleanse. going on and everything. Probably okay for Katie's too. I don't do Katie, so I can't really say that for sure. But she's also pretty much irreplaceable. No other Soul Weaver really does what she does. Her healing output overall, mixed with her offensive utility, with a AoE strip. So let's go over her skills really fast. S2 is AoE heal, right? S1 is a single target damage dealing ability, which will heal the lowest HP target. And at S3, the idol mode. So Shining Star, she turns into an idol, right? And this is where the magic really happens. She has two abilities. One of them is an AoE. It will strip all buffs off the enemy and dual attack with the ally with the highest attack. And one more attack, well, her S2, or S, whatever it is, will heal your entire team. It will also give everybody attack buff and CR boost everybody by 50%. So just this mix of powerful abilities makes her the best unit for PvE, period. And the fact that she's such an old unit, so one of the earliest units released in the game, and still hasn't been replaced at all, basically means she's probably going to be the best unit for PvE for, like, forever. So, 100%, I suggest you try to get her if you can afford it. But anyway, that is the top 10. I hope this was helpful for you. Remember, you do not have to pull on all 10 of these heroes. Weigh your heroes and your roster and your resources carefully before pulling on any of them. Have any questions, always check out my Discord or my Twitch channel. Always happy to answer any questions. I'm Neptune. It's been a good one. Nep out.